Today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. Week 6 ends with a little Monday night doubleheader, baby. The Bills against the Falcons and the Bears against Washington. If you go over to the Hard Rock Bet Stats Hub, you can find out some of these nuggets. Like Bijan Robinson has scored a touchdown in 5 consecutive home games. Rome Odunze is on a 4-game touchdown streak. That's why I put together a little parlay. I think Josh Allen bounces back. Obviously, the Bills, Sunday Night Football last week, lose to the Patriots. I like Josh Allen to score an anytime touchdown. I like James Cook to score an anytime touchdown. Bijan Robinson to score an anytime touchdown. That's plus 450. If you add Rome Odunze to that, you get odds over plus 1,100 on the Hard Rock Bet app, as you can see I got right here. So, listen, you got Monday Night Parlay boost for the games. So that's what I need to do. So if you haven't made your first bet on Hard Rock Bet, there's still time for you to get 150 in bonus bets. If you win, just place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you not only get your winnings, but 150 in bonus bets. Download the Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook app now and make your first deposit. What is going on, everybody? Happy Sunday to all the football fans out there. The Kansas City Chiefs. We thought they were kind of back last week, where they probably should have won, but they lost to the Jags on a kind of crazy ending. They definitely had a little muscle flex tonight, and Coach Reed and Patrick looks like they've kind of fixed that offense, so we'll dive into that game. Not the craziest of Sundays. Like anyone that lives on the West Coast, you kind of come, you wake up, you turn on the TV, you're like, this game's terrible. But then you just keep watching as there's not much else going on really early in the morning. But we'll kind of touch on from Bo Nix to Jordan Love. There was a game where 2 guys were lost in pre-game warm-ups. Tony Romo's got some like makeup tan job. I was watching the Buccaneers, not quite sure what's going on. Baker Mayfield started the year 25-1. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. He was like 12-1. Then he went to 8-1. Now I looked today. He's under 5-1 to be the MVP. A lot of momentum there. Obviously, the Buccaneers get a big win against the 49ers, who somehow lose another star player to a devastating injury. It's not like, he rolled it. Fred Warner shattered his ankle. So, man, that sucks. So we'll also touch on a couple college things. I do want to give some flowers to Curt Cignetti. I ran into a guy today at the gym, this old guy I've seen there for years. And today he had on this red IU shirt, and he was just smiling. I kind of pointed at him, and he was just so happy that they're feeling themselves, as they should. But now Penn State fires James Franklin, which was massive news on an NFL Sunday. People think that Curt Cignetti is going to go there, and you never know. But we'll dive into all of it. Obviously, we have a Monday night doubleheader, which we will be reacting to. Josh Allen, Michael Penix, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams. So we'll have some fun storylines coming out of those games for sure. Again, on this channel, make sure you subscribe tomorrow night. But I do want to start with Kansas City. And one theme, really the last several years, has been the offense. What's up with the offense? I think last year was really clear. Their offensive line was not good. Their left tackle position was a major issue. They had to move their star interior offensive lineman to patchwork it out to left tackle, and he by far was their best option, and he's a guard. And I think you see this year the importance. Like, a lot of people thought Kansas City was crazy when they gave Jalen Moore like 2 years, $30 billion from the San Francisco 49ers, and he wasn't even the San Francisco 49ers starter. He was their backup swing tackle. It's like, wait, you're going to give a backup that much money? It's like, well, yeah, the guy can play. He just happened to back up Trent Williams. So it's like, for a lot of teams, he would have been a starter. And here's the thing, free agency comes before the draft. So would they have done it if they knew they were going to draft Simmons from Ohio State? Probably not, but you don't know that in the NFL. This is not the NBA where it's the opposite, right? You go in the order in which the transaction cycle comes. And they didn't have a left tackle, so they paid, given the amount of money they had, their best option. And then they drafted one. And it put them in a position in a game like tonight where Josh Simmons, I was recording with Colin, so I don't know if they said anything before the game started or early on in that game. By the time I came, the game had already kind of, I think it was like 6-3 or whatever. I got with like a couple minutes left to go in the first quarter. But I saw the headline before that he's dealing with a personal issue. He wasn't even there. So he like wasn't even available because he's not even at the stadium. So it's like, what are you going to do? A star left tackle. I mean, Josh Simmons has been a home run steal. I bet if you would ask Brett Veach in free agency, do you think Josh Simmons is going to be there at the end of the first round? He might have laughed. No chance, right? But he is, and he's been a stud. But then he disappears. So what do? You insert Jalen Moore, who obviously was really good tonight and gave them a chance against, they can move a pass rusher all around. Like Aiden Hutchinson is one of the better younger players in the NFL. And sometimes, like, your team's not always going to be perfect. And obviously, last year, the Chiefs making it to the Super Bowl with an offensive line that was a major question mark, at least on the tackle positions, is pretty crazy. Then this year, they have depth at the left tackle position. Think how dramatically that changed in one offseason. And it was on full display tonight. And the other thing is this. Like, and I said this earlier in the season, and I meant it because it's what we were all seeing, is that Travis Kelce looked really old. And then Andy Reid forechecked him against the New York Giants. And it was like not playful. Like he was dead serious. And then when he was interviewed at halftime, like we needed some juice. And this is where coaching and relationships, and we talk about this all the time, like, you can kind of know people or know people through friends. And then there's people you've known for 20 years. There's people you went to high school with. There's people you grew up with. There's people you went to college with. And as you get older, you realize how strong those bonds are. Because you knew that other person when you had nothing, when the relationship was very pure. And as your lives change, as you get kids, as professional, desires change, you move around the country, that bond you have with those humans can never be broken. And there is a bond that Andy Reid has with Travis Kelce that is pretty unique. It's not very often that a coach, is around a player for well over a decade in the National Football League. And Travis Kelce, if he retires this year or next year, is going to retire a Chief. He's not going to play for another team. As Mike Tirico said, life of a tight end. And here's the thing with Travis Kelce the last couple weeks. He's looked good. He's looked younger again. And I don't know if it was a motivation talk. I don't know if Coach Reid had been on him. But tonight he was huge. And really the last couple games after the Giants game, listen, I know the Ravens are a match unit, but 5 for 48. Last week against the Jags, he had 7 for 61 and a touchdown. And then tonight he had 6 for 78. And you just really felt his presence. Big third down catches, just big first downs, big working in the zone, working the open areas. He just looked quicker. He looked a little more explosive. He looked kind of like the younger version. Now, can he do this every week? I don't know at 34, 35 years old. But as long as he has this in him to go with, like, Juju's a pretty solid player. Hollywood Brown has been big for them. Obviously, getting Xavier Worthy back, like, he can make some explosive plays. They got Rashee Rice coming. I mean, that offense is pretty well-rounded. Even when they asked Coach Reid at halftime, like, what are you looking to do in the second half? He's like, we want to continue to be solid on the ground and sling that ball. Like, Andy Reid wants to sling that ball. And the way you can do that is having Travis Kelce play well, frees everything up for the other wide receivers. And let's face it, this Chiefs team is not going to have Tyreek Hill in his prime. Or like when Coach Reid was in Philly, Deshaun Jackson and young Jeremy Maclin. It's not quite that. But this group's pretty good as a unit. And they have one of the best players in league history. And you've seen the last couple nights or last couple weeks, and you definitely saw tonight, that, like, he's pretty special. And what was he tonight? 22 of 30 for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. He made some huge plays with his legs. He was really accurate. He was just really good. The thing for Patrick Mahomes to be good, I do feel like we go back to a couple years ago when the stats were a lot better. It was like Travis was a major factor. And I do think that like when Travis plays well, we talked about this on Thursday night. Like Scadaboo's kind of the heart and soul of the offense. You can just feel it when you watch the Giants. And the guy's a rookie. Like Travis, over the course of Patrick's career, when he's making big plays, it feels like their offense is unstoppable. And obviously, the Lions have a lot of injuries. I'm not trying to act like they're the '85 Bears, and they're going to have to play better teams as the season goes on. I'm sure, especially as the weather turns. It's not going to be as easy as it is in terms of their secondary. They had a mash unit missing a ton of corners, even lost the DB during the game, Kirby Joseph. But like that was a confident team, and we saw last week they scored what 28 points. This week they score 30. Hell, they had a Super Bowl team that it felt like had stretches during the season where they were struggling to score 20 points. So if you're going to tell me the Chiefs are going to start scoring above 25 to 30 points every week, they're going to win a lot of games. And a lot of people, I remember Colin said, like after the Monday night game, everyone's like, what's he talking about? They're coming. Just when your quarterback plays like that and your offense looks like that, they have one of the highest paid defensive coordinators in the league. And their defensive personnel is probably not as good as it was a couple years ago, but still pretty good. And there's a standard, and there's a culture, and there's a physicality to the way they play. And I think you saw tonight, the way that game ended, Chris getting called out, it was pretty embarrassing, going viral for just kind of standing there. I saw Coach Reed got asked about it. Maybe that was like Wednesday or Friday. And even it's not like, what are you going to do? Pretend it didn't happen? He's like, yeah, it just kind of can't happen. And you saw Chris Jones tonight a couple times, like, yeah, the motherfucker came to play. He is not messing around. So I'm not acting like the Chiefs are headed back to the Super Bowl. But one thing they got going for them, really got going for them, is look around the AFC. We'll see Buffalo tomorrow. I'm sure they'll probably win. But they are, and when it's all said and done, they're probably going to be the number one seed. I don't view them, honestly, a couple years ago, the Ravens, when they were the number one seed, I'm like, this is a complete team. Right? When the Chiefs have had times when they were the number one seed, it's like, I don't want to play them. Right? The Eagles last year, one seed. It's not what the AFC feels like. It's like the Indianapolis Colts, who I'm pretty sure are like 5-1. Right? The Bills, who are probably going to be 5-1. The Ravens are gonzo. I know John Harbaugh's like, I still got hope. Like, there is no hope, John. Lamar can come back. Roquan can come back. You're 1-5. So do the math. You got 11 more games. To get to 9 wins, you'd have to do what? Go 8-2, 8-3? Like you're not doing that. Your defense stinks. You had pride today, but it's over. The Bengals, their quarterbacks disappeared. The Chargers, half their rosters on injured reserve. The Denver Broncos, their quarterback completed 3 passes in the second half against by far the worst team in the league right now. So this is a unique time in the AFC because the last couple of years, like AFC stacked. Lamar, Burrow, doesn't feel like that right now. It's like Aaron Rodgers, 41 years old. You think Chiefs lose sleep playing Aaron Rodgers? You think Coach Reed's going to set his alarm extra early to get ready for a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers? And that's not a shot at Aaron Rodgers. He's playing well. But, like, he ain't Lamar Jackson. He ain't Joe Burrow. That's not what we're talking about here. But that's the AFC. It's like 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers and Daniel Jones. So, again, who's playing really well. And I have a lot of respect for the Colts. But that's my point. This is not your typical super top-heavy. It kind of feels like the SEC. I watched the SEC is a good conference. Ton of NFL players. A lot of good teams. But this doesn't feel like a couple years ago. And it's like, Bama, Georgia, like, watch out. Good luck. Godspeed. It's not the case here. Now, defensively, they're going to continue to get tested. Now, they do got the Raiders coming up next week. That's a win. Then they got the Commanders. Then they got a tough stretch at the Bills, at the Broncos, the Colts. Still got some Cowboys mixed in there, the Texans, the Chargers, the Titans, the Broncos, the Raiders. I've said it all along. They're 3-3. This feels more like a 10 or 11 win team than it does previous years, but I saw them go to the Super Bowl a couple years when they went 11-5. Now, part of winning 10 games, you're not getting a bye. But you think Chiefs are worried about going on the road in the playoffs? And tell me this. What AFC team, let's say it's the Steelers, let's say they're a 3 seed. Steelers win 12 games. They cruise to the AFC North. I got news for you about the Steelers. They're going to win the AFC North probably early December. It'll be over. I mean, the Browns stink. I mean, they can't get a first down to save their life. The Bengals bring in Joe Flacco, and they even got some life, and they're not going to win any games. and the Ravens are just screwed because of all the injuries. So the Steelers, just because I don't know, partly the division, and listen, they've played well. I, they go 12 wins. There might not be another team in that division that wins seven. So, okay, you're the 3 seed. It's like the Bills, the Colts, the Steelers. What if the Chiefs are the 6 seed? It's like, what's the line on that game? You think a lot of people are just going to hammer the Steelers in that spot, especially if the Chiefs continue to show life? So I'm just, or it's the Colts. I'm not even. Again, I'm not. I'm enjoying Steelers renaissance. Like I want them to be good. It's fun. Let's say it's the Colts, right? You think the Colts, the three seed against or the Jags, and they got to play the Chiefs in the first round? You feel good about that matchup for those teams? My point. So you got Spags, you got Coach Reed, you got Patrick Mahomes, you got Kelsey who's just trying to generate all this enthusiasm for this new album release, and all of a sudden you go, God, this team looks a little fresher. They look okay. I feel pretty bullish. And on the flip side, it's pretty crazy. It's not quite the 49ers, but they just have a lot of injuries every single year. And I did have the thought of, I mean, at one point in time when it looked like maybe the Lions could win this game, it's like, is Jared Goff a sneaky MVP candidate? He was like, at one point in time, he only had a couple incompletions. He'd thrown a couple touchdowns. He's probably got no chance to win the MVP, but he's a good player. Their skill group is pretty special. I mean, Laporta, the one touchdown in the back of the end zone. Their running back duo of Montgomery and Gibbs is just pretty elite. Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And you factor in Laporta, like, find me five better skill guys on a team. And then, kind of like the Chiefs, all of a sudden their starting left tackle goes down. They put their back up, and boom, they don't skip a beat. Still pretty solid. I mean, most teams, if they lose their starting left tackle, it's like, what are we gonna do? Because the drop off is the size of the Grand Canyon. But you look tonight, you go, defense is going to be their problem because offensively, I know they only scored 17 points, but that's not a spot that I'm going to worry about them. And this was a great spot for Kansas City. Sunday night at home at Arrowhead. Like, even if Detroit is a 12 or 13 win team, this is going to be one of their losses, right? So, I mean, they were an underdog for a reason. Chiefs are better. I got news for you. But I'm still pretty bullish on Detroit. I think I missed the trick play that I guess ended up getting called back. But, like, Johnny Morton's been pretty good. Like, I watched their offense and I feel pretty good about it. Now, sometimes, and listen, there was this back and forth early in the game where they both went for fourth downs and neither of them got it. And, if you're Coach Reed at this point in time, you got nothing. You got Super Bowls, you got AFC championships, you got quarterback MVPs. Like, you're not trying to prove anything. And Detroit is still trying to get over the hump. Just get to the Super Bowl would be an amazing accomplishment. But, like, sometimes going for it in these tighter games, when you don't get it, can be pretty devastating. And, like, one thing that they do not have, and this is his deficiency that Patrick just does, when you run a fourth and third or fourth and five or fourth and six, whatever your route combination is, sometimes, even if it's in theory a great play call, a guy could trip. You get a coverage, the guy screws up the defensive coverage, and he actually is in front of the guy that you think you're throwing to because against that coverage, it's always going to be open. But the guy goes to the wrong spot and actually defends your offensive play. Like, you never know, right? There are a lot of variables in football. And in those moments, or you call a play and they run the right defense. Jared Goff can't keep the play alive with his feet. And that's no fault of his own. He's just, relative to the NFL, an awful athlete. And the modern day quarterback, we talked about this with Dart, all these young guys coming in the league. We'll see them tomorrow. Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Drake May. They all can move. They all are very athletic guys. So they can keep a play alive just moving around. And with the Lions, and even Collinsworth hit on a little bit, on some of these must-have, like fourth and fives or third and fives, from a passing standpoint, if it works, boom. They got Laporta, they got St. Brown. If they run a great out route and they hit it, they get rid of the ball quick. But if it is not there, it can be difficult for them. And it's just part of the nature of having a quarterback that doesn't move that well. And defensively, they're just, at this point in time, Anzalone's good. Obviously, the pass rusher's good. But they're just, Branch is good. Even though I was walking in here and the brawl broke out. I'm like, Branch, just shake Mahomes' hand. What are you doing? And I appreciate having some crazy MFers on my team. And listen, it's football. This isn't, beer league softball. Like sometimes you got an edginess. People hate each other. I got no problem with that. I was like, what are we doing, man? Just shake his hands and go to the locker room. Uh, but at the end of the day, the Lions 4-2. If I was a Lions fan, I'd feel pretty good about my team overall. And listen, we're just coming from behind against better teams, especially as they tee off on Jared Goff, can be a little more difficult because of the athletic ability. Okay, let's hit on some other stuff around the NFL. I do think the craziest story of the day, I mean, just by far had nothing to do with anything that happened during a game. The Indianapolis Colts lost two players in pregame warmups. That is insane. Like in the NFL and in college football too, usually the buses get there around like three hours 20 minutes before a game, and most players go out and do some sort of individual personal warm up. Right, it's where you see a lot of the clips, especially if you're watching like ESPN or Fox or something in the morning, of guys in like shorts and t-shirts playing catch, stretching out, doing band work, doing whatever. And at the first injury I saw it on like the Everything app X, that Charvarius Ward got absolutely decleated by I think one of his own teammates just doing a backpedal drill to warm up his legs, and he got a concussion. In the collision, Charvarius got like ejected into the air. You're looking on the ground, you're like, is he dead? So the guy got a concussion before he even put his pads on. And then it turns out, because I saw that Riley Leonard, the former Notre Dame quarterback, who's a third stringer for the Colts, got elevated to the backup. I'm like, did Anthony Richardson get in trouble or something? It turns out he was doing band work. Every quarterback in the NFL, first string, second string, third string, it's like baseball pitcher. Does the band work? If you're listening to this on audio, I'm kind of doing some visuals. And they are, listen, you can find it at your regular gym. I mean, those bands, if you stretch them, it's like a slingshot. If you let go of it and uncork it at your hand, at your body, it would really hurt. He got hit in the face by it. It turns out it like broke his orbital bone. He had to go to the hospital. So my guess is that within a 10, 15, 20-minute period on the field for the Indianapolis Colts, they lost two players before they ever put on their pads. One had to go to the hospital, and the other guy had to got a concussion, clearly had to get checked out by their medical team. That is insane. And then they went on to win this crazy game against the Arizona Cardinals that actually looked better offensively with Jacoby Brissett playing quarterback. But I just maybe it is the Colts year, but that's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Uh, Baker Mayfield, who is now the third on the list of betting favorites behind Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and himself, Baker Mayfield, to be the MVP, had another really good game, missing guys. When I say missing guys, his two top wide receivers injured. Emeka Buka, who actually technically is his top wide receiver, got injured during the game. So really down the stretch of the game, he is playing without his three best wide receivers. One guy is a Hall of Famer. The other guy, Godwin, when healthy, is a high-end player. And Emeka Buka is probably, if he's healthy, going to be the offensive rookie of the year. So it's a pretty special group. And they're all gone. Baker's unfazed. He's throwing it to rookies, to Sterling Shepard. He had probably the best run of his career on a third. I think it was like 3rd and 20. He beelined it for like 25 yards. He's like making guys miss, running through arm tackles. He is having a fantastic season, and he's a really, really enjoyable player to watch. Now, I wasn't rooting for him today. I wanted the 49ers to win. But as you start watching Baker Mayfield, he does have, and John Dorsey, who was with the Green Bay Packers when they when they traded for Brett Favre, and Brett Favre kind of resurrected his career and I mean created his career and became a three-time, actually 3 straight years, won the MVP in the NFL, and became one of the more entertaining players in all of professional sports in America. John Dorsey had a front row seat, and when he drafted Baker Mayfield, he brought up that name. And I think a lot of people thought that, like, I don't know, man. What I love Baker Mayfield coming out of college. I thought he was a more athletic Drew Brees. But one thing that's on full display around the league, and I talked to Colin about this, now more than ever. You see it with Mac Jones. Mac Jones I know he threw some interceptions, but for the most part has looked excellent for the 49ers. He was a laughing stock for Bill Belichick. You know what it turns out the last couple years? Bill Belichick might have lost his fastball. He might be throwing like 80 miles an hour now. That happens. I'm a San Francisco Giants fan. I remember Tim Lincecum. When Tim Lincecum was winning Cy Youngs, he was throwing 98. His last year with the Giants, I think he was throwing like 87 miles an hour. Guess what happened when he threw 87 miles an hour? A lot of people hit home runs. When he was throwing 97, no one was touching him. And Bill Belichick lost his fastball. Like everyone in his wake fell apart. It's like, well, actually, Mac Jones, is he a first rounder? Probably not ideally, but he's a pretty good player. Baker Mayfield, pretty good player. Sam Darnold played for the Jets. Everyone made fun of him. Some of it self-inflicted when he got mono. But other than that, it was like, this guy stinks. I would not want this guy to be my quarterback. Even people like me that like Sam Darnold at USC, it's like, I just don't think this guy's very good. Turns out actually he is. He's really good. Sam Darnold currently is one of the best players in the NFL. You know what he needed? Stability. People that know what they're doing. And Baker Mayfield is no different. I mean, now he's at the point where you could just get rid of his top players. Not he doesn't want that, but if they go down, hamstring injuries, rolled an ankle, hamstring, whatever, I'll make plays. Who am I throwing it to? I don't care. It doesn't matter. That's what really good players. That's what Josh Allen does. That's what Lamar Jackson does. That's what Patrick Mahomes does. That's what Justin Herbert does, and that's what Baker Mayfield is doing. And we talked about momentum and narrative. Like he has a ton of momentum on his side. I would say, assuming he stays healthy, I would be stunned if Baker Mayfield doesn't end up the MVP. Because part of it, too, is he's going up against two guys who are above him in the ranks. Like Patrick Mahomes already has a couple. Do you know what Patrick Mahomes has to do to win another MVP? Stats have to be gaudy, and they got to be the number one seed. That's not going to happen because there's a little bit of fatigue. Josh Allen literally just won the award last year. People want to vote for someone else, especially when they're a deserving candidate. So if Baker Mayfield's going to run around, throw a bunch of touchdowns, be the leader of a team that ends up with 13 or 14 wins, and is like the number one or number two seed in the NFC, I think he's a borderline. I don't know who, if they had a vote, wouldn't vote for him. I put this out during the game, and I'm on a million text threads. It's I don't think I've ever seen anything like the 49ers. That every single game, they have multiple players who their careers are altered because of injuries. And today, Fred Warner, you can say it's a freak thing. And it is true. Someone gets rolled up and thrown in the back of your ankle. There's nothing a trainer, a doctor, or a strength and conditioning staff could have done to protect you about the body that falls on your ankle, dislocates it, and shatters it. That's just, it's a freak deal. Happens in football all the time, from the high school level to the college. It probably happens in Pee-wees. I was watching last night. Maria fell asleep. I'm watching the John Candy documentary. I'm like, I just need something positive before I wake up in the morning. And I was like, oh, I'll just flip on John Candy. Turns out John Candy, for those of you that are young, older actor, who actually has been dead for a long time now, but was pretty famous when I was a kid. Loved football in high school. Thought he was going to be a college football player. Had his kneecap shattered in high school. Had to remove his kneecap. He didn't have a kneecap because his injury was so bad in high school football. I remember I had a good buddy that I played high school football with that in JV football had a devastating knee injury. So it's just like freak shit happens. But Fred Warner, I just don't ever remember a team that's like, they gave Nick Bosa a couple years ago, historic deal, torn ACL, out. They gave Fred Warner, beside like Roquan Smith, the most money for a middle linebacker in the NFL. He had his ankle shattered. There is not a team in the league who could take the equivalent of Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and remove them for the season. Obviously, Nick a couple weeks ago and Fred, so well before Halloween, and have a fighting chance to be good on defense. And the 49ers, they tried hard, but you eventually run out of bodies. George Kittle, who we think is coming back this week, has already missed, 5 games. Brock Purdy is probably going to play less than 5 or 6 games this season. There's just no overcoming this. And I'm not trying to blame anyone. There's nothing you could do in this individual instance. And I don't know the solution because I look around the league. You go to some of these box scores, you get random players all over the league because every single game, especially anyone with YouTube TV and has the NFL package, is that what they still call it? has the 4 boxes. You see guys carted off every game. It's crazy. It feels like an epidemic. The amount of injuries around the NFL, broken legs, broken feet, ACLs, hamstrings. Guys just drop like flies. But the 49ers are losing not just like the best players on there, like some of the best players in the league. And it does feel today, for the first time, like this felt like a tipping point. Kyle and Robert Saleh have done an excellent job. They were just hanging in there with Tampa, who also has a bunch of injuries, but they're playing Baker Mayfield, I don't know, the MVP of the league, with their backup quarterback, Mac Jones, who's resurrecting his career, but he ain't Baker Mayfield. And then Fred Warner goes out, who's like the heart and soul of the franchise. He's not like the team captain of the team. He's like the team captain of the franchise. Like he's like the most important human on the team. He like speaks for the entire organization on a weekly basis. You don't overcome that. He's like their Ray Lewis. It's like when Ray Lewis in his prime for the Baltimore Ravens. You remove that, I don't care who you got backing him up, and they got random guys backing him up. You just don't have much of a chance. I don't know what to do about it. I don't know how to fix it because the Niners just constantly injured. But it does feel for the first time like you just lost all these players. I don't know how you keep winning games. I don't care who you play, and your schedule's easy, but you just can't remove this much. They gave $277 million in guaranteed dollars this offseason to Brock Purdy, to George Kittle, and to Fred Warner. Brock Purdy has turf toe, and again, I don't have much confidence he's going to play many games this year. Fred Warner is now out for the season, and George Kittle might come back from a hamstring. But here's the thing with hamstrings: sometimes they get re-injured. So who knows? Like how many games George is going to play this season? Just devastating. So props to Baker Mayfield and Todd Bowles and Jason Light for kicking ass and taking names. And I respect the 49ers for how hard they're playing, but you get to the point where you're just kind of running on empty, right? I've run out of gas a couple times. It sucks, and that's what it feels like with the 49ers. Couple things. I get a lot of DMs from you guys. At John Middlekauff's the Instagram. We do Middlekauff mailbag all week long. And I usually defend this guy because you're like, Matt LaFleur. John, do you think he's too conservative? I'm like, I don't think that. And then today, just because in the afternoon I only had 3 games on, and typically I wouldn't have been super locked into Bengals-Packers, but beside the Niners and them, like I can't take the Titans and Raider game seriously. So watch every snap. And as the game went on, and I watched the morning game with Sean Payton and Bo Nix had almost like 200 yards passing in the first half, which I didn't really watch because I was sleeping because it was like 6 in the morning. But then you get up, you watch second half, and Bo Nix was horrendous. He had like 3 completions, I think. Literally, he had 3 completions in the second half. But the ebb and flow of their game, it was like, Sean, why are you trying to run the ball? Let Bo Nix just sling it around and win this game by 20 points. And I think you see with Sean Payton, and I think you see with Matt LaFleur, like Sean Payton didn't have a choice last week when they were playing the Eagles. They're down 17-3, kind of just had to let it rip. It's like, hey, Bo, go make some plays. And I think you've seen with Matt LaFleur this year, when they play a team that Matt goes, well, we're better than the Bengals. And he's not wrong. They are 100% better than the Bengals. And if their quarterback just plays an average game, they will beat this version of the Bengals without Joe Burrow, whether it's Joe Flacco, whether it's Jake Browning, whether it's Andy Dalton comes back. It doesn't matter. They will win that game 95% of the time. LaFleur knows it. The fans know it. His team knows it. And I'm watching him, and I'm watching Sean Payton this morning, and I go, they are being a little conservative. They're kind of like coaching not to lose. Now, LaFleur had a little more wiggle room. They were up in that game, and honestly, they were kind of in cruise control, even though the game was, it's not like they were up 30-0. I think it was, like 17-3 at one point in time. And I just thought, like, let Jordan kind of sling it. Because a couple times he did push the ball down the field, and they had explosive plays. But LaFleur is wired much more like Kyle Shanahan. He really wants to just slow the ball down, control the clock, run the football. And Josh Jacobs looks good. But I for the first time, I understood where a lot of Packer fans goes, like, can Matt open up the offense a little bit? Like, we do have some talented skill guys. And I thought the same thing about Sean Payton, whose offense throughout the season has looked a little stale. Because it doesn't feel like either guy trusts the quarterback. And here's what the Bucs have going for them right now. And you could argue Baker's earned it. They have undenying trust and just like Give him free reign. Dan Campbell's the best example of this. Has complete trust in his offense, starting with Jared Goff. Doesn't mean it's always going to work, but Dan Campbell treats Jared Goff no different than Andy Reid treats Patrick Mahomes. And having that ability frees everyone up. And you're able to be much more explosive as an offense and have much more explosive plays. But the Broncos, like the Packers, definitely feel like they have guardrails around their quarterback. Some of you with young children that have the training wheels on the bike, and there gets to a point of like, okay, just take the training wheels off and let him or her kind of let it rip. And hey, he might fall down, he might skin his knee, but a couple months later, he's going to be ripping around the driveway and the street. Uh, Ideally, if depending on the street you live in, you put. It's funny. I get old. I don't. My kid's not even here. I'm already thinking like, where can I place the kids that play 25 miles an hour? I remember being like 16 years old, driving home in my neighborhood and like cruising by that thing, like flipping it off. It's funny. You you know, uh, put yourself on the other side of it. You're like, damn, slow down. But I do think you need to let these quarterbacks play free, and they definitely are not. A couple other things. I feel bad for Browns fans. They are a really rough watch. Their offense is horrendous. Their offensive line today got beaten. How many sacks did they give up? They got beaten like a drum. Dylan Gabriel was sacked 6 times. Honestly, if I had to guess, I would have guessed 15. He was hit over and over. You could put Shador back there. You could put Deshaun Watson back there. You could put Joe Flacco back. You could put any. You're going to get destroyed. Offensive line stinks. The skill players constantly drop balls. There is a lack of I don't know creativity. Kevin Stefanski, I've always liked him, but they are not a fun team to watch. And their defense is clearly pretty good, but the Steelers that game felt JV varsity. And I would say the same thing about Miami. Not that they aren't competitive, because offensively they can score more points. But Tua, after the game, the way I would describe Miami is like just nobody cares. The head coach, the players, Tua acts like he cares, but it's like, Tua, you're throwing picks left and right. So it's like, why aren't you early to the team meeting or to players only meetings? Like, Tua, I don't think you're any good. So it's like part of being a leader. It's much easier for Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or Patrick Mahomes to be a leader. It's easy for Fred Warner to rally the troops. They're great players. Typically, the best teams, their best players lead the squad, right? And Tua's not that good of a player. Just because you make a lot of money doesn't make you a leader or a great player, right? And that's where I think the trouble the Miami Dolphins find themselves in. It's not. I'm not trying to blame Tua for guys being slapdicks. That's on the GM, who has built one of the worst teams you're ever going to see. Like I'm watching the Saints, people think they suck. I'm like, I enjoy watching them play. They are not that bad. Their defense is, and Brandon Staley is one of the biggest. I mean, you talk about a scam artist. I mean, this guy, I wouldn't let this guy near my defensive unit. He's out there calling plays, just getting shredded on a weekly basis. But offensively, I'm going Kellen and Nussmeier. They're dialing up some plays. Rattler slinging around. They're a fun team. Props to the Patriots for getting another big win. Drake May's playing well, but man, the Browns tough watch for a team with some really good defensive players, and the Dolphins. The best way to sum them up is just no one cares. Okay, let's end on this. Some couple quick things with college. I've come around on Curt Cignetti, and I owe him an apology. I would say a month ago, even probably as recent as like 3 weeks ago, I would have said I hated the guy, couldn't stand him, rooting against him. He's kind of grown on me the last couple weeks. I watched a couple interviews of him saying part of the reason he said Google me, which I think I was like, that's so stupid, even though he had a successful season, was like my program wasn't irrelevant. No one knew Indiana football. We were the butt. We were like the Detroit Lions. I'm saying this. He's not of college. We were the all-time losingest program in the history of college football. So me saying that, like, you don't need to do that stuff in the NFL. The NFL is just about picking the right players in the draft, cutting the right guys, signing the right guys in free agency, hiring the right coaches, and just grinding and trying to learn how to win. The fluff doesn't matter because there's no recruiting. Where in college football, that does matter. Creating buzz. Like, I hate the word optics. I think optics is one of the most overrated words in the private sector. It's produce. Optics don't matter when you're dominating in whatever industry you're in. But optics and that shit do matter a little bit in college. Why? Because you're making impressions to 16, 17, 18-year-old guys. And now with the transfer portal, 19, 20, 21-year-old guys. So it's like, okay, I get what he said. And then he lost it during defensive pass interference that wasn't called during the Oregon game. He's interviewed at halftime, and I forget who the reporter was. And she says, you said all week it was about being calm and controlling your emotions on the road, and you just lost it. Were you trying to like send a message? And he smiled. He said, yeah, that's what I was trying to do. We needed my energy right there. It's like Coach Reed when he bumped Travis Kelce. Like part of being a coach is playing psychological warfare, especially in college with the recruits, with your own team, with your opponents. He also said something that I think kind of flew under the radar that I don't think he randomly did it. Is he called Dan Lanning the phenom in all of college football? It was like he was trying to put him on a pedestal to maybe think he starts feeling himself a little bit by the way that I view him. I was like, God, I kind of like Curt Cignetti. And then this today during halftime, I'm eating dinner during the Chiefs Lions game, and I watched this interview that he did with who Rick Neuheisel. I think it must have been at Big Ten Media Days, and he asked like, why did you leave Alabama in 2010 to go to IUPU? It's like I've never even heard of that school, and he's like, because I wanted to be a head coach, and I was 50 years old. I was making $320,000 at Alabama. I was the wide receiver and recruiting coordinator, which 320K back in 2010 was probably a lot of coin, especially in the Tuscaloosa, Alabama. That'd probably be the equivalent right now of like that position would probably pay like 800-900 grand. Hell, probably pay $1 million. And he's like, the job that I took paid $120,000. I was going to take a $200,000 pay cut. My wife said no, we're not doing this, and I had to talk her into it. And I kind of thought, you know who Cignetti is? He's like an entrepreneur. Because he's like, I could have just been an assistant the rest of my career at that point in time. Worked for Saban, worked for the best guys, made a ton of money, and been a lifetime assistant. I said, nah, fuck this. I want to be a head coach. I believed I was a head coach, and I want to try it out. And then for a decade and a half, he got to figure out how to be a head coach. And then he finally gets a shot in one of the biggest, currently, it's probably the best conference in the league or the country right there. It's probably them and the SEC has been better forever. Now, at worst, they're equals, if not the Big Ten's better. And he gets a shot at a joke program, and he turns it around immediately. And I do believe that guys that are wired like this, like he didn't have to do this. Most human beings wouldn't do this. Most guys don't take opportunities. Think about the money that assistants make now in the Big Ten, in the SEC. They would never leave for a really crappy job that doesn't pay as much. Right? It doesn't make it. It's like it's no different than most people that are in corporate positions that make a lot of coin. Go, I really wanted to do this one thing that I've always been passionate about, but they kind of got me on the golden handcuffs. I can't leave because Google's paying me $500,000. My kid's going to private school. My wife's driving that G wagon. Like I can't change. I can't risk it. And most guys in football are no different. They don't risk it. And Cignetti risked it. And now he's sitting with one of the best teams in the country. And I've really come around. Like I kind of get his brashness. Why wouldn't he be brash? He went to the gutter essentially to coach IUPU, Elon. Then he goes to James Madison, starts winning big, and now in Indiana in 2 years he's 17-2. And his ability to, I mean, Rourke, his quarterback last year, is on the 49ers. And Fernando Mendoza, who he got from Cal, who a lot of other teams surely could have got in the transfer portal. I had buddies at the game in Oregon that said he's probably going to be a first round pick. I don't know how high, because I said, you think he could be like a first overall pick or a top 10 pick? They're like, it depends on the class. But he's definitely moving up the board. Big arm. This week at Oregon, threw an awful pick six and bounced right back and led him to a win. Threw his bait, a great back shoulder passer. But Cignetti has balls, and he proved it a long time ago when he left Saban for a terrible job. That even Saban said at the time, like, I couldn't believe he was taking this job. It's not like Saban wanted Cignetti to leave, but he's here in this position now with the understanding of knowing what he has to do because of all those experiences. And James Franklin was fired today. And I think most people think like, and there was a rumor that Adidas help pay the money. I don't know if that's true or not. Clearly, I don't think you just get $50 million easily, because it's not just $50 million to pay James Franklin to go away. It's you got to pay him $50 million. Well, what do coaches cost? Who do you think Penn State's going to go after? Brian Kelly got $90 million. Lincoln Riley got $120 million. The cost of these high level coaches, the Lane Kiffin types, I mean, you're talking an enormous amount of money. So it's not just $50 million to pay James Franklin to go away and pay his staff to go away, which is going to be another millions upon millions of dollars. It's then paying other recruits, other coaches. It's going to be very expensive. So how they got that, I got no clue, but there were probably some shady things that went on behind the scenes. And would Cignetti leave and take the job? Historically, there would never be a coach at Indiana that would turn down Penn State. One thing I think we're going to find out this offseason, more than ever, because one thing you see in the NFL, if you give me power, the Jags job is no different than the 49ers job. That's no different than the Packers job. Every job in the NFL is good. If you say you get to run it. Liam Cohen was like, I don't want the Jags job. Then they're like, we'll give you juice. You hire the GM and we'll fire Trent Baalke. He's like, I'm in. I mean, just like that. Ben Johnson's like, hey, I don't really, the Bears, I think I want to be a head coach. $13 million a year. He's like, I'm in. It's the NFL. You get to do whatever you want. You get to pick the players. You only have to answer to one person. College is very complicated. But this offseason, we're going to learn. Penn State is open. Florida State hasn't won a conference game in like 2 years. That's going to open. Auburn, going to open. The University of Florida, going to open. There are guys like Lane Kiffin and Curt Cignetti at Indiana, at Ole Miss, Matt Campbell at Iowa State. Are these guys ever... Does it even matter anymore? I don't know. Because if you're Indiana and you go, well, we can buy guys. We got the resources. Because I hear this a lot. You don't have the ability to recruit around your program. Who cares? Has the world ever been flatter? You ever heard of social media? YouTube? Instagram? I mean, what does it matter? Iowa to California? Like, you can find anyone, anywhere in a moment's notice. It used to be much different, more difficult 20 years ago. It was a really big deal. It's like, Pete Carroll or Miami, they used to kind of recruit. Michigan recruit nationally. Anyone can recruit nationally. Indiana is one of the best teams in the country with Cal's quarterback. And you can flip things around immediately. It's why Belichick is under siege. It's like, you shouldn't suck this much. You're Bill freaking Belichick, and you can add any player you want, in theory. So I don't know what's going to happen. If you told me Cignetti takes the job, if he's offered, I'd believe you. If you tell me he stays, I'd believe you. I don't quite understand the... We're going to learn. Because I don't know. I don't even think ADs and coaches quite know. I think they're still trying to figure it out. Like, if I can buy players where I'm at and I'm happy and I'm winning, I don't need to leave. Because part of the reason to go to Penn State is like, that's where you could get players. Well, if I can get players that I want to come to Indiana and I can beat Oregon with them, I don't need to leave. I can beat the crap out of Illinois. Even if I can't beat Ohio State, no one can. So who cares? But if I can beat everyone else here, I don't need to go. Lane Kiffin's like, well, do you need to go to Florida? Well, I can beat LSU at Ole Miss. So they're paying me $10 million a year. But maybe it's like, I don't know. Maybe they can offer more NIL money. Maybe he just wants to go to mix it up. But I think we're really going to find out this offseason what the NIL impact of these coaching situations are. Because I don't know. I can see either scenario playing out. Guys staying and being like, I'm happy here. We got cash and we're good. Or it's like, no, I think they got more money. Because I think if guys do make the move, it'll all be promises about money for the roster, money for the coaches. Less about like, well, we got a lot of recruits around us. That clearly doesn't matter, especially with the transfer portal. So James Franklin loses back-to-back games as basically, I think he was a 25-point favorite against UCLA. I don't know the exact number against Northwestern, but he was 20+. Drew Aller's out for the year. Just one thing in life, you got to strike when the iron's hot. And obviously, he's had a long run. I mean, he's been there for over a decade. But like this year, 15 days ago, he had the lead. He had the lead against Oregon. If he wins that game at home, we're all talking about Penn State as one of the best teams in the country. I would imagine coming off that win, they don't lose to UCLA. But not only does he not beat UCLA, he loses that game. Then he loses the next two games in a 15-day period. And on Sunday morning, he's fired. So the world we live in college sports, the NFL is a lot like this with players and coaches. There's so much money in the line now that it's one of the great businesses to be in because if you get fired, they get paid millions of dollars to go away. But you will not keep your job. And I think James Franklin wasn't that controversial in terms of the team quit on him. Like they said, we're done. UCLA could be like, listen, that coming off a crazy emotional high, then low at Oregon. We had an awful week. We lose. Win the next week. You win by 20 points. He's not fired today. But you lose back to back weeks, especially at home to Northwestern. I don't think they had a choice. If you would have told me at the beginning of the season when Penn State was, if you didn't have them number one, they were universally a top two or three team in the country, that James Franklin was fired in the middle of the season, I would say a crazy scandal happened. Yeah, I would say something egregious, like one of the stories of the year, if not the story of the year in college football. Cheating with the chancellor's wife, some crazy cheating scandal with a recruit, which I don't even know how you do in this modern day world. Uh, Tax fraud, or I don't know, something insane. But no, he just lost to Northwestern in UCLA. And they said, this can't happen. You're gone. See you later, buddy.